She's helped me so much in my health, mentally, physically, emotionally, which I think I need personally because in the industry that I live in, a lot of people just like to tell me I'm great and that's it. So I need somebody to tell me the truth sometimes.
Raven, Simone was only a child when it began. A bright smile on the television screen that masked a dark secret away from the cameras. A nightmare she silently endured for years. She grew up in front of the eyes of America, adored by millions, yet behind the scenes, her reality was a world filled with fear and intimidation. Now, decades later, she has broken her silence, speaking out not only about her own painful experiences, but also about the man at the center of it all. The man once affectionately referred to as America's dad. The man who built an empire on staged laughter and forced embraces. The man who, according to Raven, destroyed far more than childhood innocence. He destroyed lives. One of those lives, she claims, was Malcolm-Jamal Warner's. Raven recalls a chilling threat delivered directly to her. "You'll disappear like Malcolm." Soon afterward, Malcolm was gone. His death was labeled a drowning, but there were no witnesses, no thorough investigation. Just a body sent home under a quiet headline that felt far too clean and far too final. Now, Raven's voice is piercing through years of silence as she reveals a trail of hidden threats. Erased voicemails, leaked files, and a disturbing pattern so dark that it sends shivers through anyone who hears it. This, she insists, was no accident. It was a message, a calculated act of silencing, a warning meant for anyone who dared to confront the man behind the public mask. Raven is done protecting him. She is naming names, producing evidence, and calling it exactly what she believes it to be: murder wrapped in a smile. This is not just another Hollywood scandal. This is a betrayal laced with fear, buried deep within the shadows of the entertainment industry. If Raven's words are true, then one of television's most beloved legacies was built not on family values, but on blood. She was never supposed to tell her story. She was supposed to smile, wave, and fade from memory like so many child stars before her. But Raven refused to fade away. She waited, she watched, and when her moment came, she spoke, and the world has not stopped shaking since. In an unflinching interview that has thrown Hollywood into a tailspin, Raven revealed what some had feared and what others had whispered about behind closed doors. That Bill Cosby not only preyed on women but also silenced men who stood in his way. And among those men was Malcolm-Jamal Warner. For many, Malcolm will always be remembered as the clean-cut, good-natured son from The Cosby Show. The one who stayed out of trouble, worked hard, and remained humble. The one audiences felt they knew. But behind the scenes, as Raven tells it, Malcolm was changing. He was becoming more outspoken, asking difficult questions, pushing for transparency on set, and distancing himself from Cosby's shadow. That, she says, is when the tension began, when the friendly warmth in Cosby's voice gave way to something cold and dangerous. Raven overheard a chilling statement that has haunted her ever since. "He's getting too loud. We might need to quiet him." She was just a teenager and did not fully understand the weight of those words at the time. But looking back now, she says she knows exactly what they meant. Malcolm was not merely a colleague. He had become a threat, and threats, in the world she describes, do not get ignored, they get erased. She recounts a moment when Cosby pulled her aside, speaking in a calm, almost casual tone, as if he were making an ordinary remark over dinner. "If you ever go against me, you'll disappear just like Malcolm will." That sentence froze her to the core. She did not respond. She did not move. She simply nodded, because what could she do when the most powerful man in her career had just looked her in the eye and threatened her life? The intimidation did not stop there. Raven claims Cosby had eyes and ears everywhere, in her dressing room, her trailer, even her hotel rooms. She says private conversations she had in confidence would later be repeated back to her. Notes would be slipped under her door, sometimes blank, sometimes carrying only a simple message: "We're watching." Then came the news that Malcolm had gone on vacation to Costa Rica with his wife and daughter, a trip meant to be a break, a reset, a time to relax, but he never came back. The headlines read, Malcolm-Jamal Warner dies in tragic drowning accident. Raven says she knew instantly that what she was reading was not the full truth. She had not spoken to him for months, but she could not forget their last backstage conversation between takes. Malcolm had leaned in and told her quietly, "One day I'm going to tell everything. But first, I have to make sure my family's safe." When she learned of his death, she says it did not feel like the loss of a friend to an accident. It felt like a message being sent. There was no time to process her grief. The funeral was arranged quickly. The investigation was wrapped up with alarming speed. The official files were sealed, autopsy results were delayed, and questions from those who cared were dismissed. Then, she says, came the most haunting moment of all. A phone call from Cosby himself. Without introduction, without explanation, his voice delivered just one line before the call ended. "Now you understand what happens when people talk." Click. That was the moment, Raven says, when her fear ignited into resolve. She withdrew from the public eye, cutting all ties to the industry. This was not an escape, she explains. It was preparation. If she was going to tell the truth, she needed evidence. Over the years, she gathered voicemails, old hard drives, encrypted messages, backstage recordings, names, dates, and threats. She says she kept it all. And in her interview, she made the accusation that has sent shockwaves through fans and former colleagues alike. "Cosby didn't just hurt me, he killed Malcolm." From there, the picture she paints grows even darker. A source from NBC Archival Department confirmed that a piece of footage once existed, a heated on-set argument between Cosby and Malcolm that took place just months before his death. The official explanation is that the clip was corrupted, unusable, but a brief 17-second snippet without audio appeared on Reddit just last week. In it, Malcolm is seen standing firm while Cosby, red-faced and tight-jawed, points a finger sharply at him before Malcolm turns and walks away. A former set technician has claimed he heard Cosby mutter under his breath, "You talk and you're done." Raven says Malcolm had begun keeping a digital journal, encrypted files, voice memos, secret contracts, which he referred to as his life insurance. The day after his death, she claims it all vanished. His iCloud, his phone, his MacBook all wiped clean. But the data logs, she insists, prove that his cloud account was accessed just 6 hours after his death from an IP address in Los Angeles, not Costa Rica, not by his wife or daughter. 2 blocks away from that IP location sits a property owned by a shell company, allegedly tied to one of Cosby's longtime attorneys. Is that coincidence or evidence of a cover-up? Raven says it is part of a larger pattern, one that connects Malcolm's death to a series of threats and secret financial dealings. An anonymous whistleblower claims Malcolm was about to go public with documents showing that Cosby's production company had been illegally funneling money by using the names and likenesses of former cast members without their knowledge, one of those names being Raven, Simone's. She says Malcolm showed her the proof, and that is why she believes he was targeted, because he was ready to expose them. Raven insists that Malcolm's death was not a tragedy of misfortune, but the calculated removal of someone who refused to remain silent. And she says she is no longer afraid because she has the evidence to prove it, along with lawyers, witnesses, and backups ready to act. She claims she is preparing to release a recording Malcolm made just 5 days before his death, though she will not reveal its contents yet, only promising that when it is heard, the truth is coming. In the days following her bombshell interview, Hollywood did not merely go silent. It seemed to spiral into panic. Emails vanished, social media accounts were scrubbed clean, and former castmates began deleting old posts and photographs without explanation. Then came a wave of legal threats, including 2 cease and desist letters, one from Cosby's legal team, the other from a legacy production house associated with reruns of The Cosby Show. Both accused her of defamation, contract violations, and manufacturing false memories. But Raven remained unmoved. In a live stream with eyes red and swollen from crying, she said, "I was a child. They told me to smile, to shut up, to keep the brand clean. But now I'm breaking the brand. I'm breaking him." Her stance has emboldened others, and someone no one expected stepped forward. Tempest Bledsoe, the actress who played Vanessa Huxtable. She went live on Instagram for 10 minutes without speaking, staring into the camera until finally whispering a single line, "Y'all don't know the half of it," before abruptly ending the stream. Whether that was confirmation, a plea for help, or a warning that she might be next, no one knows. Then, another blow to the official narrative emerged. A leaked internal memo from NBC legal department dated just 3 days after Malcolm's death, with the subject line, "Preemptive Narrative Strategy Warner Vacation Incident." It revealed not grief but damage control, with 3 listed priorities: confirm accidental drowning with local authorities, delay media inquiries, and ensure all Warner digital assets are accounted for. The term digital assets meant his phone, laptop, and journal, and this is where things took a darker turn. A Costa Rican hotel employee confirmed that someone checked out Malcolm's room early using a master key card registered to a visiting media representative. The name on the visitor log was redacted, but the signature reportedly matched that of a known NBC crisis manager. Even after his death, they were allegedly working to clean up any loose ends. Then Raven discovered something chilling in her own archives. She had never deleted Malcolm's old messages, and one of them, dated 2 weeks before his death, simply read, "If I go quiet, it wasn't my choice. Tell Ice." Those 3 words, "Tell Ice," have now become the center of an entirely new layer of this story. Ice, as in Ice Cube. Sources close to the rapper say Malcolm had reached out to him, sharing encrypted files about questionable financial activity and covert dealings tied to Cosby's empire. Malcolm apparently trusted Ice Cube because Cube had survived his own battles against powerful industry forces, silenced and blacklisted, but never defeated. Now Ice Cube is reportedly funding a private investigation, bringing in former FBI agents, cybersecurity experts, and even forensic divers to return to the site in Costa Rica. He, too, received an email from Malcolm, with the subject line, "If something happens to me, tell the truth anyway." The body of the email was empty except for an attachment labeled RJAL, zip. The file is currently corrupted, but metadata shows it was created on a MacBook Pro, registered to Malcolm's production company, the same laptop that is now missing. Whether that is coincidence or evidence erased is unclear, but the implications are explosive. Then came a leak to an underground podcast, a distorted voicemail in which the speaker's voice was masked. But experts analyzing the pauses, tone, and cadence believe it to be Cosby himself. The message said, "This isn't a threat, it's advice, walk away, don't let that girl get in your head, this isn't your story to tell." The girl? In question, Raven, was, according to her, someone Malcolm had decided to stand beside, to help expose the truth about the man hiding behind fatherly smiles and sitcom charm. If that was his intention, it would explain why he became a target. Just 2 days before his death, he called Raven. She missed the call, but the voicemail he left has not been made public, at least not in full. In a teaser for her live documentary, she played only one sentence from it. "I'm scared, but I can't stay quiet anymore." The rest was static, and then silence. Those were, she says, the last words she ever heard from him. Since then, the internet has erupted. Hashtags like #Justice for Malcolm, #Raven exposed Cosby, and #Truth behind the curtain have trended across social media. YouTubers have begun analyzing old episodes frame by frame. Reddit communities are combing through signatures, timestamps, and leaked email headers. And TikTok is flooded with reenactments, breakdowns, and deep dive theories. The legal sphere is also heating up, as Raven has confirmed she will testify in a sealed civil case connected to Malcolm's estate. Originally filed as a financial dispute, The case is now reportedly shifting toward wrongful death. This change follows findings from private investigators who identified 3 alarming anomalies in Malcolm's Costa Rican autopsy: conflicting entries for the time of death, missing toxicology samples, and a 48-minute gap in surveillance footage from the hotel hallway where he was last seen alive. On top of that, security logs show that someone accessed his hotel room 3 times that night using a master key, though the identity of that person remains unknown, and according to Raven's team, someone is actively trying to erase those logs. She says they are scared, and they should be, because she is not simply accusing Cosby of harassment or misconduct. She is methodically building a murder case, piece by piece, backed by evidence and testimony. She is no longer alone in this fight. Malcolm's mother has stepped forward publicly for the first time, delivering an emotional statement in which she declared, "My son didn't drown, he didn't slip, he didn't fall, he was taken, and those who did it know exactly who they are." Those words, simple yet powerful, have been described as a war cry, a signal that this battle will not fade quietly. The movement behind this cause is growing, amplified by Raven's upcoming docuseries, They Tried to Silence Me, which promises to release leaked recordings, internal memos, private conversations, and hidden footage that networks have kept out of the public eye. At the heart of it all remains the image of Malcolm not just as an actor, but as a man who, according to those closest to him, was trying to protect others while risking his own safety to speak the truth. Raven's portrayal is not of a tragic accident, but of a man caught in a web of secrets, silenced before he could break them wide open. She says this story is no longer about just her or Malcolm. It is about pulling back the curtain on an entire system built to hide its most dangerous truths. She insists this is only the beginning, and once the next wave of evidence comes to light, there will be no turning back for those who have kept silent for so long. Raven's accusations have now gone beyond the sphere of rumor or personal grievance, and into the realm of concrete claims that intertwine personal tragedy with corporate conspiracy, painting a picture of Malcolm's final days as part of a deliberate operation to erase him before he could reveal damaging truths. And she says the scope of involvement reaches higher than most dare to imagine, implicating not only Bill Cosby, but also individuals tied to major networks, corporate shell companies, and even former NBC executives. One of them, she alleges, received consulting fees through an offshore account less than a week after Malcolm's death, a payment she says is linked to the cover-up, and at the center of it all is the mystery of the missing laptop, which a former New York storage contractor, speaking anonymously and with voice distortion, claims he was paid $30,000 in cash to relocate, along with a metal briefcase, from a storage unit tied to a company called Pudding LLC, a name everyone in New York allegedly knew was connected to Cosby's shadow operations. And inside, he swears, was a laptop etched with the initials MJW Malcolm-Jamal Warner, yet that laptop has never been recovered. But Raven has her own cache of evidence, including voicemails Malcolm sent her by email, backstage recordings, and private messages, one of which was made just 48 hours before his death, in which Malcolm's voice, worn down and full of fear, says, "They're watching me, I can feel it, but I'm not backing down. I have the files, I've made copies. If you're hearing this, I'm gone, and if I'm gone, it wasn't an accident." After which there is silence and static, the last words anyone ever heard from him. Raven has since turned these files over to her legal team, a federal investigator, and an independent journalist working on a multi-part expose titled Murder in Prime Time, which is already stirring speculation that a sealed grand jury inquiry is underway, not just about abuse but about murder, money laundering, obstruction of justice, and corporate-level conspiracy. According to Raven, the pressure has intensified as former Cosby Show writers reveal that 2 other cast members privately admitted fearing that if Malcolm talked, everyone involved would be implicated, with one of them having gone dark and the other seen entering a federal building in Los Angeles alongside 2 attorneys. And though they have yet to speak publicly, their actions have fueled online communities that are now reanalyzing old footage from the set, identifying glances, unscripted moments, and unexplained cuts that, when aligned with Raven's timeline, seemed to tell a story of intimidation and control. Then came perhaps the most powerful statement, yet Malcolm's mother, breaking her long-held silence, standing before cameras and declaring, "My son did not die in an accident. He was silenced, and I will spend the rest of my life making sure the world knows who took him from me." Before holding up a photograph of Malcolm smiling and holding his daughter in a red sweater, the same sweater Raven claims he wore in a dream she had the night he died, a dream in which he told her, "Don't forget me. They'll try to erase me, but don't." And Raven has taken that to heart, saying she will not let his memory be buried by false narratives. She points to unanswered questions: who accessed Malcolm's digital files just hours after his death, why his journal was erased and replaced with a blank folder labeled "Shut It," why NBC is allegedly scrambling to block her legal team's demands for decades. Old documents and frames these as signs that this is not the end of the story but the beginning of a storm, one she says she has now lit the fuse for. She challenges the public to decide whether they believe Malcolm's death was just an accident or, as she alleges, a silent execution masked by smiles and buried under the bright lights of television history, urging viewers to comment, share, and speak up, especially to those who still believe The Cosby Show was simply harmless entertainment. Because for her, this is no longer about entertainment at all, but about truth, justice, and ensuring that what she calls a legacy built on lies is exposed. She says Malcolm was not supposed to die. He was supposed to speak, and his death was a setup meant to send a warning, yet his voice lives on in the recordings and files she now safeguards. She warns that this is not a conspiracy theory but a call to action, and she appeals to those whose hearts broke hearing Malcolm's final words to become part of the movement, to refuse to scroll past, to comment, to share, to like, and to subscribe for more truths they do not want the public to hear. Raven says this is more than a video. It is a fight for Malcolm, for every victim told to smile and survive, for justice against those who abuse power while hiding behind celebrity and corporate protection, and that now the fight is shifting from surviving to exposing, with the intention of making sure the truth cannot be buried. She ends with a warning to those she accuses. They tried to bury the truth, but they didn't realize we are the storm. A rallying cry that has already spread across social media, cementing this as not just another celebrity scandal, but a potential reckoning for one of television's most protected legacies. And whether or not the legal system will validate her claims, she has succeeded in igniting a public conversation that is unlikely to fade, especially as more documents, recordings, and testimonies begin to surface, forcing the world to confront the possibility that Malcolm-Jamal Warner's death was not a loss to chance, but a deliberate act meant to silence him forever.